If you're an occupational therapist working with wheelchair users who need to transport a power wheelchair, we're going to give you 7 different options to consider. We're going to go through the pros and the cons of each option. And at the end, we're going to give you the exact framework to work out which one is right for your client. Let's get into it. But before we get into it, I want to go through some different options before we even look at modified vehicles or modifying the vehicles at all. Some other options you can do is you can have modified taxis or use public transport like buses or trains. Or another option that a lot of people probably don't consider enough is the use of an off-the-shelf manual wheelchair. So say, for instance, you've got someone who really does need a power wheelchair. They need the suspension. They need the ability to independently drive. They need customized seating. They need all the features of a power wheelchair, but for the 1 or 2 times a week they need to go out, they can't transport it and they can't take public transport or whatever. Then what you can do is get off-the-shelf wheelchair. And yes, they're going to lose their independence. They might lose a bit of comfort. They might even need more checks for their posture and their seating. All these things might be, but at least it means we can have a power wheelchair that is suitable for them 99% of the time. And then for the 1 to 5% of the time where they have to go out into the community, they can utilize an off-the-shelf wheelchair. But what do we do if we absolutely need to maintain a power wheelchair and we need to transport it? Today, I'm here at Mobility Engineering and I'm here with my boy, Amid. You know what it is. And we're gonna go through all the options and work out what's right for each client.
That's right, because we're going to talk about vehicle solutions that let you to transport your power chair on your time.
Yes.
So we're going to go with, sorry to cut you off. We're going to go with inside the vehicle and outside the vehicle solutions. So then you get the full suite of what's possible with transporting that lovely power chair.
Sweet, let's go through it. The first one we're gonna do is, the first option is
Portable ramps.
Now, portable ramps are an awesome option. You can get them in telescopic, you can get roll-up ones, you can get folding ones, but I really like the telescopic ones because once the chair goes into the vehicle, you need to store the ramp. So if it's a long ramp, you have to either put it on the roof or work out something else. But telescopic allows you to put it nice and compact into the car.
Correct, yeah. So it allows you to adjust the length, but also ramps are portable ramps, meaning you can use them with multiple vehicles. So then that way, if there's a differences in height, you can adjust the length to suit the grading you need. Now, a general rule of thumb is 1 in 4. So that's 2.2 meters length you need. But in reality, you can go shorter, but it just means a little bit steeper, right? So that's just something to be mindful of when you're doing the assessment. What's a person's capacity? And another thing actually is then the clearance underneath the power chair. That's sometimes people.
What do you mean by that?
So if the angle is too steep, the power chair may not actually go up, or it may not get the traction in the rear wheels.
Suspension. Yeah, so they can that's what's called high centering. So if we were to drive a power wheelchair up a long ramp, there should be enough flex in the system where it will drive up nicely. But if we have to drive the power wheelchair up something as steep as this, some wheelchairs may do it, some others may not. The steeper it goes, the better your driving has to be as well. So that can also be a factor.
Portable ramps are great as well because when combined, you get about 250 to 300 kg off rail. That's a lot when we're talking power chair. Also, in terms of versatility, that power you don't just can use it within the vehicle, you can use it at someone's house, an Airbnb, somewhere to get access where you do have that difference in height.
Love it. Portable ramps are awesome. So once you get the chair into the back of the car, so with these cars, whenever you're trying to transport a power wheelchair into the back of a car, you generally need a people mover, like a 7-seater where you have to remove the seats. So that gives us enough room to drive the power chair in. And then can you just drive it in, or do you have to do any mods to the car after that?
That's a good question. Yes, so a lot of the times the vehicle will have tie-down points. However, they're not really rated for these power chairs. So we put aftermarket points. So here's an example of a rail that we put. So we put a couple of these in there where you can adjust the length and have a higher capacity rated strap that you can lock it in. Yeah. Right? You want to remove the need of the potential of that being a projectile within the vehicle.
Yes, because if you slam on the brakes, you don't want that to go boom, flying through the windscreen. So you need to have tie-down points and probably a false floor or something on there.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So portable options could be cool as long as we get enough clearance to go into the back of the car. So this car here, what's this one over here?
This is a Kia Carnival. So quite popular family car. And as you can see, the internal height or the opening height is not that grand. So when it comes to power chairs, you may have to speak to the experts where potentially look at removing a backrest, fold down. I mean, that's your specialty, right? What can you do?
Yeah, well, you can do fold down back canes to make the overall height of the chair lower. You can also have removable armrests. So if the back canes go down, the armrest might be still in the way. So you can have those be removable.
But now on the topic of ramps, right? So yes, these are portable ramps and we are talking about that, but there are fixed ramps that you can have as well, where they're more suited for the larger vehicles, right? So then you do have a bigger surface area, because sometimes having two independent ramps can be a bit finicky for some people, and they may like that stable platform.
Yeah,
right.
So you have to bring these out. This can be, these are fairly light, but they can be hard for some people. The fact that it moves, you might need to secure these down. But if they don't want to do that, they can just have something that folds down, whether it be a power ramp or a manual ramp, where it folds down enough where it'll be a fixed length. So you have what you have, and you can drive the wheelchair up from there.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's portable options. What else do you have in this system?
Then in terms of inside the vehicle, we do have crane hoist or boot crane hoist, where push of a button, the crane head will rotate out and then it would lower down a lifting strap. Now this particular crane hoist is quite unique because it can take up to 204 kilos and it allows you to pick up the device from the side. So back on that versatile point, when we're looking here, if we want to do a bit of a comparison, if I'm trying to load the chair with the portable ramp, I need quite a significant space behind my vehicle. Whereas with the boot crane hoist, you're kind of working within the width of the power chair behind the car. So it does make it a bit more user-friendly when you're trying to, stow your device. But you do need this to be mounted within the vehicle, so it can reduce a little bit of your internal clearances, right? So you do need to consider boot length and width, obviously with the height as well.
Yeah, and so for power wheelchairs, obviously the ideal situation for all these, whether it be a ramp or a crane hoist like this, is that we want to have as much clearances here as possible and enough boot space as possible.
Yeah.
If not, then we can work to make the chair a bit more as compact as we can.
Hoist as well. You as the user operating the device, you sort of want to be able to stand for about 2 to 3 minutes on average, bend down, secure different types of lifting points. And for some people that can be ideal and great, and others that can be challenging. Right, so there are some other internal devices that we can also cover that show you for those with poor mobility and balance.
Sweet. Okay, so we can do this option. We can have portable ramps, we can have fixed ramps, we can have a boot crane hoist, all dependent on how big our space is. We can do all these, but what if we need something that is a bit easier to use? If someone can't manage the ramp, they can't manage bringing all these things down, what can we do to make it easier for the carer to load it into the back of the car?
That's a Joey.
Let's go check it out. So what is the Joey?
So the Joey is a platform lift that loads your mobility device externally and then brings it into the rear of the vehicle. Yeah. So you typically will have this mounted in a people mover where you're losing your third row seats, or a SUV wagon where you're going to lose that second row seat.
Yeah. Okay. So this one makes it a lot easier for people to mount. This comes to the ground.
Correct.
You can just drive it in, lift it up, and all you need is just these 2 hook points that you need to do.
The 2 hooks to secure it to the crash barrier.
Yep.
So when it comes to loading, simply just drive and push it on, raise it up, and then load in. So everything's powered operation. So you're not having to bend down, get to those awkward positions.
Yeah.
Right.
Sweet. This sounds like a perfect option. Why would we not do this one instead of the other one?
So this, you're going to be limiting with the lifting capacity. So 159 kgs is what this can carry, whereas that crane hoist can take 204 kilos, right?
And typically with wheelchairs, as they come out every year, they get heavier and heavier, and they typically weigh about 180 to about 200 kilos. There are some chairs like the Glide Centro or the Q400. These chairs have been known to become under the 160 kilo, but this is what you may have to work with your supplier and say, hey, this is the limit that we need to work with under. Can we get a chair under this weight limit?
Because it comes down to the features that you need on the power chair as well, right? So if you are needing those stand-up tilt functions, they do require the chair to be heavier for that balance.
It seems like the only way to really get it under 160 kilos is to have a tilt-only chair. So a real basic chair, maybe a compact chair, backrest you can take off, cushion you can take off, tilt only so it doesn't add too much weight. You may be able to sneak in lift, but this is all going to add weight to the chair. So if it's just a tilt only chair, you may be able to get away with it.
But now, we've talked about inside the vehicle, but what about equipment, the family members right here? We love to have a family. I know this guy does, right? And probably wants a big one too.
Absolutely.
You've got the football gear, you've got the dance class outfits, you've got everything there. So why do we not consider outside the vehicle?
Yes, so this one fits inside the vehicle. Everything we've looked at so far is things that fit inside the vehicle, which is great, keeps it dry in the rain, and it's just easy, it's really compact. But what are the options if we do external to keep our boot space?
Let's go.
Let's go. Okay guys, when Omid showed me this one's called the Outsider. And when he showed me it, I thought this is it. This is the #1 option to transport a power wheelchair. It's just so compact, it's easy, you can put on, looks like you can put on any car. It's amazing. Tell me why it's amazing and tell me why you guys barely ever do it.
And that's almost true that you can put onto any car. So this is what we would consider a suspended carrier, the Outsider. And it's great because it just connects to the vehicle's tow bar. You're not really carrying much weight like a trailer as such behind your vehicle. So when you're driving, it's quite easy to drive with. But then as Justin was sort of mentioning, there are some limitations, right? And one thing that we consider is the tow bar's ball weight. So that's the downwards force that the vehicle's tow bar can carry. So depending on the vehicle's size, that can be quite low, right? So, you know, potentially less than 120 kilos. Now, when we're trying to talk power chairs, if we mentioned before what those weights can be, anywhere from sort of 140 to 200 kgs, right? So now if your tow bar only has a downwards force of 120, well, if we consider the weight of this, which on average can be about 50, 60 kilos, that's already half the weight gone.
Yeah.
Right? And you don't want to go to the limits too.
Yeah.
And the reason being is we've got to then consider the driving forces, the bumps of the roads. So we always try and factor in a bit of a tolerance.
So best case scenario, so we've got the weight capacity of the unit itself, which is about 159.
159, yeah.
So we have to get a power wheelchair that fits under 159, which really limits our options. And if we do find that, we have to find a tow bar that has a 159 plus the 50 kilos. So we're looking at about 220 kilo.
Which there are those SUVs.
Yeah.
They can be like higher than that 250 range.
Okay,
right?
so if we've got an SUV, we can do it, right?
Well, no.
Tell me why.
So point 1 was the tow bar, and then point 2 is actually the rear overhang of the vehicle, right? So in Australia, the road rules say you're allowed 60% of your wheelbase behind your vehicle as your rear overhang. And behind your vehicle is from that center rear axle point backwards, all right? So when we add the length of the vehicle's rear overhang as standard, that's to the back of the car, plus then the length of these suspended carriers, you're over that 60%.
Now, if that didn't make any sense because it's so much numbers, we're going to explain exactly that on this car over here. All right, so what Omid's saying is that we have the wheelbase of the car, which is the distance from here to here. Let's say, for instance, that is 2 meters. Now, 60% of 2 meters is 1.2 meters. So that would be halfway there, 1.2. So if we estimate that, we need to have this distance behind the car. So here, and 1.2 meters brings us to about here. Now, as you can tell, the device that we just saw is not going to fit on there because we have to put the power wheelchair on there. So it may be different depending on which state you're in or which country you're in, but generally speaking, it's going to be really hard to maintain that. What cars have you done it on?
Really? Vans. So commercial vehicles like a large van, they have a larger wheelbase to carry the load, but then they have a really small rear overhang for those vehicles, or a small hatch. But then the catch is...
Hatch doesn't have the tow bar capacity.
Yeah, right.
And do the vans have tow bar capacity? Like,
yeah, they do.
Toyota Hiace. Like Toyota Hiace, great classic family car for the people with maybe 6 kids and they need a people mover. You can have that, have all the seats, and then maybe you could have one of these on the back of the van.
Yeah, may not be the Hiace, but then we could look at considering the multivan,
yep,
or the Ford Tourneo. They tend to have high capacity tow bars, right? But then again, what's that power chair weight?
This is true. So we still need to have the 220 tow bar weight limit, the 160 kilo wheelchair, and then and then the wheelbase on there as well. If you have that on the back of your car, does that mean you can't use the boot?
Great point. You still can use the boot because there is a swing away device. So that can be fitted as an optional extra to swing that suspended carrier out of the way. So you can use that boot.
Okay, cool. So you can swing it away. All right. So there are options. We can do inside, outside. Is there any other options that we can do for outside? Say if we got a chair that we don't have the tow capacity for 160, but we do have a chair that's 160.
Well, let me correct you. So cars will have the tow capacity, but then it's that downwards force, right? So with the suspended carrier, usually that's not always going to be the case, but then you can actually have a trailer to tow with, right? So the trailer really considers the vehicle's towing capacities, which the smallest rating is about 750, which can take almost any lightweight trailer for a power chair. So we can show you a device that we have that's potential for a trailer.
Let's look at trailer type of transport devices. Now, Amid, I love the names of these things. We've got the Outsider, the Joey. What's this one?
And this one's the Chariot, right? So the names, I guess, kind of differentiate what they do.
Yeah.
So the Chariot is being drawn by the horses, and the horses in modern era is the vehicle.
Yes,
right?
horsepower. So what happens in this one? We bring this one down?
Yes. So the Chariot is a mobility trailer designed for devices up to 159 kilos, right?
Still at that limit of that
That's that
159?
limit, yeah. But you can see with this design, as you sort of just unfolded there, quite a compact trailer. So if you want to go parking, you can almost fit this in any parking spot,
Yep.
right? You don't need a special trailer parking. And then, yeah, once you lower the platform down, operate with the key and the remote, the platform will lower down where you just simply push your device, hop off, press the button again, and it'll raise up and bring it to this height where then you can secure it.
Yeah.
Right? So no real bending involved, no awkward positioning.
Yep.
You're just effortless loading.
And the benefit of this one over the Outsider is that we're not restricted by the tow bar capacity.
Correct. So it's still connected to a vehicle's tow bar, but it's relying on the towing capacity of the tow bar and the vehicle, not the ball weight, because you've got the wheels to suspend that.
So our only restriction on this one is that we just have to maintain a wheelchair that is under 160 kilos.
Now,
And that frees up our boot space
Correct.
compared to the Joey that we saw earlier, and is a lot more convenient than the portable ramps or the Hoist that we saw, or the internal options that we saw.
Now, if you do have a device that is heavier than the 159, it's not the end of the world. There are trailers out there that can take higher weights, but they're more standard box trailers. Yeah, they have manual loading ramps, and you can spec them up, but then it starts to get quite pricey, right? But then they are also quite longer. So where sort of Justin is standing, that's potentially where it would finish, or even go a bit further back. And then you have the ramp after that too. Right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, you have that, and then you have the ramp on top. Man, can they not just make this to be like a 220 kilo capacity?
One day, right? If they can go to the moon, they can.
They can do this. Come on, man, just reinforce extra bolts. Like, surely. I really think if this option had that 220 capacity, that would open up power wheelchair use for so many users. But it is what it is. If we've got someone that can fit under 160 kilos, they need a tilt-only chair, this is a great option.
And one thing to consider is compromise, right? I know, we want the bells and the whistles, but in reality, what is the mobility device that's going to do that 90% of what you need to access your community, get you out and about, and give you the support you need? Is that within that limit? Because then that may be the differentiating thought to then get a solution like this that allows you to transport on your own time.
Yes. And with all these devices that we've looked at so far, you cannot sit in the wheelchair. You have to be able to transfer out of the wheelchair. Correct?
Yes. So these solutions purely stowing for the mobility device only. The occupant, you're in the car.
Yeah. Let's go look at those options before we wrap it up.
And now we have some wheelchair access solutions. Where's Justin?
Whoa. All right.
There we go.
Talk to me about this option.
So this is what we call a cut floor or lowered floor wheelchair access conversion, where the vehicle gets cut to have this lowered floor section placed in. And the reason is this vehicle is not the largest of cars, right, in terms of internal height. So we're trying to maximize a relatively small car to have that internal height needed for a seated passenger. And so this solution here allows you as a wheelchair seated occupant or passenger travel within the vehicle.
Yes, travel, and it's also just so much easier as well. You just drive it in, it stays maintained. Yes, you lose the back seats, but you've got that. You've mentioned head height, so we need clearance in here, which usually you can get by just tilting the chair back. But once you get in, how much head height do you need from the top of your head to the roof?
As a minimum, we want 100 mil clearance above the head.
Yeah.
Right. So from the top of the person above, 100 mil. Right. And I guess the minimum you need is the access ramp, the 4-point restraint systems, and the retractable lap sash seatbelt.
Yes,
Right.
because the belt on the chair is not the belt for occupant.
Well, yeah, what we say is this is a restraint. This is a postural device that supports your posture to allow you to seatbelt effectively.
Yeah.
Right? Keep
This
that.
is where restraints are good. You want to be restrained in the car,
Correct.
so you don't go through it. Okay, so there are 7 options. We've looked at the pros and cons of all of them, and the ones that you can do from internal or inside the vehicle, as well as outside the vehicle, as well as a full fit out. Let's go sit down and work out, knowing all this information, what is a framework we can use to understand which device is right for which client. Let's go. All right.
So Justin, we went through quite a few different solutions.
Yeah.
Inside the vehicle, outside the vehicle. We kind of talked about the pros and cons,
Yeah.
right?
But we need a framework. We promised the people a framework. So I think we need to do 5 main considerations. I think the first one would be, can the client manage getting out of the wheelchair and into a regular car seat? That's factor number 1.
That's the most important.
Okay, let's talk about that soon. Then factor number 2 would be, what type of car do they have?
Correct.
What's its internal height? What's its weight rating? All these things. Then we want to look at what wheelchair do they have, if they have one. Then what else do we need to look at?
We also want to look at where they're accessing in their community.
Yeah.
Right? The local places that they're parking, their environment as well, like their house, their garage.
Do they have, what is their driveway?
Correct. What are the constraints we're working with there?
Yes. And the last one we need to know is their strength and dexterity. All right, so let's break all these things down. The first one is, can they get into a vehicle themselves? If they can't transfer out of the vehicle, that pretty much limits us only to the options of
them being a seated passenger in the vehicle with a wheelchair access car.
Yes. So if you're doing that, if they can't get out of the vehicle, if they can't get out of the wheelchair, then they have to go that option. Already narrows it down that way. What about in terms of what type of car they have?
So with the car, So if it's looking at the inside vehicle solutions, we need to the main factor is that height.
Yes.
That internal height is going to really kill us when we're talking about what wheelchairs can fit in there.
And it has to be an SUV. It has to be some sort of people mover, something with rear seats. We can't do this on the Toyota Yaris or something.
When it's a power wheelchair, your common cars are utes, the back of the tray, right? People movers or van type cars and SUVs.
Yes.
Right?
Okay.
They're really the cars we're kind of looking at.
Okay. So that helps us with the internal options in terms of what car we have. And sometimes people will come to you with the car they have, or they may be looking for a car. So if they're looking for a car, look for a people mover. And that's where the internal options might be good. Maybe we can do the external options as well. The third option is, what type of wheelchair do they have? And I think this narrows down a lot of people.
Yeah. I mean, the main factor or the main question I ask is, what's the weight?
Yes.
Because the thing is, that weight kills quite a few different options or quite a few solutions that they can use.
It really does, because at 160, look, we know the Glide Centro can do it. We know the Quickie Q400 can do it. Maybe you might get the Jazzy 623 or the Permobil M1. Haven't confirmed those just yet. But they're all going to be tilt-only chairs. So if somebody needs lift, recline, elevate, and leg rest, it's pretty much excluding any of these options, because they're all going to be over 160 kilos.
Yeah.
So the only options that really leaves us with was the boot hoist,
Correct.
portable ramps,
Portable ramps,
or just the whole cutout.
trailer. Yeah.
Okay, so if we need to go over 160, those are the 3 options that we go. Then what else do we need to look at?
Well, sticking to the power chair though, that's when we go, I guess, maybe to that point about the strength, dexterity, right? If they're able to dismantle things, the backrest, the cushions, potentially even the seat frame,
Yes.
you can get that weight quite low. When I say quite low, within that, power wheelchair lifting range.
Yeah,
right?
take the cushion off, take the backrest off as much as we can. But that's where we have to check with our suppliers and be like, hey, can we get a wheelchair that meets the client's needs, that can be at least broken down to being under 159 kilos to be specific?
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of strength, then we also got to think about the strength of the carer or the wheelchair user themselves. How does that play a factor?
So when we're looking at securing a lifting device to the chair, as you sort of probably saw in the B-roll there was the hook carabiner types. There may be some buckle attachments. So what can the person physically do?
Yeah.
And then do we have to make alterations, right? Can they actually bend down to that low tie-down point, or do we have to make aftermarket points that are higher to kind of reach and achieve?
Yeah, so I suppose the strength, the easiest ones is obviously going to be the drive-in ones or the external ones where you drive it onto the platform, and it's going to get harder as you do the portable ramps because you have to lift it and store it away, and the dexterity is going to get harder for the ones where you have to do a boot hoist mount and you've got to bend over and find all these tricky spaces. Okay, so that's strength, and the last factor we were going to talk about is community access. So where are we parking this stuff?
Yeah, so if we go to the first thing we talked about, which was the ramps, you saw 2.2 meters is long. You've already got the car, which is probably like 4 meters long as well. So that's a lot of space you need to take up. In practical sense, that's not really a lot of places you can park. Right? Maybe if you want to go to Bunnings on the weekend and get that sausage sizzle, yeah, you can take up trailer parking. But in reality, you're
Not practical. Yeah, people drive, like put the hazards on and then just drive out and then just sort of block up the Westfield parking,
Sometimes, I mean, I've personally seen that.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't have I don't know what's that word, like the nerve to do that.
Yeah.
They get quite embarrassed to.
My wife would be like that. She's like, I don't want to disrupt people.
Yeah, and to be that's a fair thing, right? You know, you're part of the community. Yes, you've got a mobility issue, but then you also want to be a supporting supporting the community environment, not disrupting anything.
And that only works if you've got a carer who can get in the car, bring it out, and then we move the wheelchair user into it. So this also plays to the factor of who's actually stowing the vehicle. Maybe that's a sixth factor, is who's stowing the vehicle. Is it the carer or is it the user themselves?
Well, something that just came to mind was safety as well. So if you're trying to do that, you know, in the middle of the road, well, you've got other cars coming into your safe zone, right?
This is true. Safety as well. So who's stowing it? Safety as well. That's 7 factors we can look at. And it's not so much about like if this, then this. They're all going to be considerations. So safety, it's not like a yes or no answer. It's like how much safety can we tolerate based on the environment. The strength, it's not like do you have strength or not. It's how much strength do you have? How much dexterity do you have? How important is these factors? And we want to look at all these factors and go through it with the client. And that's how you can properly assess the pros and cons of each and work out which one is right for the client. You can do that with a sheet that we're going to give you right at the end of this video. So if you want the video, if you want the sheet, let us know. But also, if you can also speak to your vehicle
Solution specialist.
there you go, vehicle solution specialist, as well as your assistive technology professionals who prescribe the wheelchairs, and it's a collaboration approach.
100% teamwork, right? The thing is, when I'm working with therapists and wheelchair providers, I say, hey, look, this is the type of solutions that we have available that works with their vehicle. What do you have as a, you know, wheelchair or powered device that can fit within those constraints? And then, you know, making sure that that all works for that person.
Excellent. So that's it, guys. We've gone through all the options out there, 7 options. We've gone through the pros and cons of each, and we've given you an exact framework to work out what's right for your client. If you have any more questions, don't be afraid to leave it down in the comments below. Both me and Amid are going to be happy to answer that, but I hope that was helpful. And if you want more frameworks like this, let me know in the comments below. This is what we do with wheelchair prescription. I've got a whole program that can help you through all this to make sure that you know exactly what you're doing, and every decision that you've made, you know exactly why you've made that decision. You've gone through a framework, it's defensible. If anyone asks you about it, you can say, hey, we went this option for this reason. If you want to know more about that, comment below, check in the show notes. If you watch it on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe for more wheelchair videos like this, and we'll see you on the next one.